Hey everyone, I'm Morgan,
And I'm Kira.
and we're your hosts of Distilled, Church Finance Made Simple. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 8 church budgeting mistakes. And we're looking forward to unpacking this because most budgeting problems are fixable once you know what to look for. A healthy budget should tell the story of your church's mission, not just track the expenses. So Kira, before we dive in, what icebreaker question do you have for us today?
Okay, Morgan, what's a skill you'd love to have, but only if it came with absolutely no responsibility?
Oh my gosh, no responsibility.
Honestly, I think for me, it would be the ability to, this is going to sound really weird, but make people tell the truth, almost like a truth serum kind of ability, but no responsibility of what I need to do once that truth comes out. That's on you. You let that go. I'm just here for the gift.
Now we're here together holding this.
We're holding it together, but I don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah. I like that. I think for me, I would be a Michelin star chef, but I would never have to wash one dish.
Whoa.
I hate the dishes, but I love to cook.
You don't have to start from the bottom. You can just...
That's right.
All right, that feels a lot less nefarious than mine, and I'm so here for
I
it.
like yours, though. It gives people an opportunity.
All right, well, are you ready to jump into this episode?
Let's do it.
Sweet.
If I looked at your church's spending from the last 12 months, could I tell what your mission is? Hi, I'm Dan Porbay.
And I'm Greg Daly.
And we're with Parable, your church financial team. We help churches with accounting, payroll, and CFO services. And today we're going to dive into the top 8 mistakes that churches make when they're budgeting. Now, most churches have 2 to 4 unique callings, whether that's church planting, the next generation, local outreach. Now, we say that these are our priorities, but often our spending tells a different story. A budget isn't then just a spreadsheet. It's a plan to match the vision that God gave you with the provision that He is giving to you. As the book Budgeting for a Healthy Church puts it, if done right, your budgeting categories should give you a framework for praying through your church's priorities. I mean, just think about that. A financial document that says, this is what's important to our church. This is the mission and vision that God's called us to. This is going to help guide our prayer life. Most people don't think about budgeting that way.
When I was a pastor, I don't think that I ever used the budget in that way. The only time that maybe we used it to pray is we don't have enough.
Right.
God, would you bring in more?
Exactly. So today we're going to take a look at how to turn budget from a 4-letter word into a tool for ministry that helps fuel the mission that God has called you to. Now,
budgeting mistake number one is the checkbox mentality. This mistake is viewing it as simply a thing that the IRS requires churches to do, which it does, by the way. You do have to approve a budget every year. So if you don't have one, you need to make sure you approve a budget every year. But that is basically like having a really awesome tool that you decide to leave in your toolbox and never use it for the thing it's required or it's helping you do. So if you spend the year winging it, you aren't stewarding your money, you're just reacting. Where a budget gives you a chance to tell every dollar where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
The next one is the vision gap. We often treat vision. This is something that the church is wanting to do for the year or for all eternity. Maybe it's something the pastor is really passionate about. In the budget, which is what the numbers people say we can do, as enemies. In fact, sometimes I remember joking that the person in charge of the budget is usually the chief officer of no. Right?
Yes.
Can I spend this? No. But we like to flip it because the budget should tell you, yes, you can spend that because we've budgeted for that. The budget shouldn't be a restriction. It's a launching pad into the mission. Pastors need to be in the room for these conversations because they ensure that the dollars are actually flowing towards the call that they believe the church should be going towards, the vision, the mission. And which is why I love the fact that you can, if you do it this way, you can then pray through your budget, right? Because you're praying for the church. Number 3, the lone wolf approach. Don't make this mistake by giving it to one kind of numbers person, maybe the math nerd of the organization, right? And we say that around here with the greatest
respect,
honor, care. Yes, because we have a team of people that love this, but don't let them lock themselves in an office and build the budget alone. Don't let them go into monk mode and just build it on their own. Because what it will do is it probably will add up correct. But what it won't do is it won't spread the ownership out. You need input from your ministry leaders. They should be dreaming about their area and figuring out like what is the mission that they see for their area that fits within the larger mission of the church. Whether through formal request forms or interviews, getting leader buy-in ensures the money's actually fueling the ministry on the ground. And if they have ownership in the beginning phases, they'll actually have ownership over the spending, which is what you want them. You want them to go, hey, if I spend more money than I'm supposed to, I'm actually taking away. It's almost like I'm kind of stealing from Dan's budget potentially, right? Yeah. Now on to number 4, not living in reality with your budget. Now, we serve a God who can do far more than we ask and do it much more abundantly than we can ask or think. But we must distinguish between faith and presumption. God seems to honor the discipline of looking at things like historical data, things spending from last year can give us an insight into what we could use this year. If you're just dreaming up numbers with no basis in reality and hoping that God brings in the excess, you're not being strategic, and you're not even being spiritual.
Right.
I think you're being reckless. Writing checks God hasn't agreed to sign isn't really faith.
That's good. All right. Number 5 is not having the right detail balance. Okay. So this is the right balance for the level of detail. So you don't want to get so granular that you're like, this is for paper clips for classroom C of the children's ministry wing. And that's just such a huge burden and it gets so specific. But you also don't want to be so general that, 10 ministries are fighting over like one ministry bucket for money. So you need to find the right middle ground. I like to do it where I just say like, if I'm a ministry leader and I'm spending, I love it if I can just put that into one bucket and be like, I'm spending for middle school. And so I'm categorizing to middle school. I'm doing that to my budget. High school, they have their own budget. But then I'm not like getting it all nuanced beyond that. And again, it's kind of that balance of letting people buy in and set those the budget numbers in advance, but then it's giving them freedom to spend within that overall budget number. Number 6 is not having the right flexibility. And so a budget is a plan that's made maybe up to 12 months in advance, but things change. And so you don't want to be a budget dictator. And so you don't want to just be like, hey, this is what we set 12 months ago. And so unfortunately, we just can't change it. You want to review the plan maybe quarterly, or for a lot of churches, they do it by trimester, kind of following the school year, and make intentional adjustments. And that word intentional, it's not like just, we made a budget and so we're going to go change it now because it's different. No, you spend a specific time and you say, what's God calling us to do now? How do we need to be intentional to make these adjustments so that what we actually are going to spend and what our budget now says supports where God has us now as a church? Number 7 is not having a wish list. And here's what I mean is that often when you create a budget, that does mean you're saying no to some things, and they're really good things that you really want to do. And what happens is those usually get cut and they get forgotten about. And then what happens is over the course of the year, God might provide some extra income. Or you might not spend on something. And what can happen is churches just kind of like, we can approve a little bit more here. We can do this and we spend there. And you get a little careless with that money. Well, the problem is that if you didn't do those things and you were intentional with that money, you could have actually afforded one of the things you had to cut from your list, or maybe multiple things. And so instead of being unintentional with that, if you make a prioritized list of the things that you feel like God is calling the church too, but you can't approve initially, well, now you know what to spend the money on.
This also guards against someone like in the kids' department having a great idea but then something more strategic for the church comes up. And if you didn't prioritize those ahead of time, sometimes you could spend on that thing that's like shiny and quick and, hits all the right feel goods, but didn't actually push forward the strategy of the church.
That's right. Well, and the last mistake is not praying through the process. Now, we started by saying if this budgeting process is done right, that it should actually give you a framework for prayer, because this is a holy document. This is not some administrative process, but this is a mission map for your church We are stewards, not owners. And if we believe that God is entrusting us with these dollars, that he's the provider, then we need to seek him on what he wants us to do with this money and how he wants us to use this. And a healthy budget isn't about math. It's about mission. When your dollars align with your calling, you aren't just paying bills. You're actually fueling the mission God's called you to the great commission that he's given us, which is really important to do.
Yes. So there's a budgeting toolkit that we have. If you've realized you've been doing some of these mistakes, don't worry. There's no shame in that. Now that you know, try to fix it. Make a step today. You could do that by not doing it alone and using some of the resources. We've created these from working with over 500 churches. And so don't just stay where you are. Make another step and download our budgeting toolkit. We've created this toolkit. It's on our website. And you can go to liveyourparable.com/financial-summit. Again, it's liveyourparable.com/financial-summit. We believe most churches don't have a giving problem. They have an alignment problem. And so we've got a new book coming out that talks really about that. All the things we think and put in that money basket sometimes are more about alignment than the money itself. So again, after working with 500 plus churches, we've seen the disconnect between dollars and discipleship and how that creates friction, stalls vision, and leaves teams stretched thin. And so our upcoming book is designed to disrupt that cycle, providing the tools to move from reactive budgeting to intentional financial leadership and gaining the visibility to make confident decisions and unify under keeping every dollar on mission. You can find that, more information about that at liveyourparable.com/financial-summit. Again, it's liveyourparable.com/financial-summit.
Thanks for joining us for Distilled, Church Finance Made Simple. Be sure to hit subscribe and catch our future episodes. Distilled is brought to you by Parable. Parable is your church financial team. We help churches like yours with accounting, payroll, and CFO services. To find more episodes of Distilled, resources from the show, or to connect with us about how we can help your church finances, visit us at churchfinanceMadeSimple.com.